So welcome, everybody. We would like to thank you for joining this session today with ExtraHop and Overwatch. And we're here to discuss how managed services powered by ExtraHop can assist in taking care of customer challenges. Our speakers today, first, I'd like to introduce myself as the moderator. My name is Joe Barnes, and I'm a channel account director with Highwire Networks on the Overwatch side. I'd also like to introduce Stacy Corcoran. She's the global channel leader from ExtraHop, and the CTO from Highwire Networks, Mr. David Barton. So once again, as I said earlier, I'd like to thank everyone for joining. We're going to get into this. Please feel free to ask questions as we're going through the presentation. We'll keep it as interactive as we can, and we are definitely encouraging a back and forth type of session today. So with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Barton if he will give us some ideas about the current status on cybersecurity today.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Stacy, thank you as well for joining us. ExtraHop is one of our key partners, and so when we asked them if they would like to join us, they were ecstatic because what they've built is a solution that helps solve one of the key problems, I think, in cybersecurity, which is visibility. Being able to see what's happening is essential. If you think about the keynote this morning that Bob and I talked about, ransomware and hacking and some of those things, the better visibility we have and the better ability to build behavior models off of that visibility, I firmly believe it's one of the ways we're going to reduce the impact of ransomware. So ExtraHop fits really well into that idea of giving our partners, giving their customers the ability to see things, build behavior profiles on those, and start to take action, right? Because if you look at the industry today, there is so many bad things happening, right? We saw, and you're going to hear me talk about this probably a couple of times today, but Colonial Pipeline, the meat processing company, they've all been ransomware. And while the gas shortage may not have hit you directly, there's a pretty good chance the cost of your filet mignon this summer is going up. So keep that in mind as the why we do what we're doing and why we need tools like ExtraHop. So Joe, there's a ton of things to talk about, pressing issues for the audience. If there's something in particular you want to talk about, please add it in. But with that, let's jump into ExtraHop and how it's going to help solve the visibility problem. Stacy?
Stacy.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, David. So one of the challenges that a lot of companies are facing is as David talked about, is having blind spots, having the network be a blind spot. One of the benefits from an ExtraHop perspective is we're really able to help with kind of that complete coverage, really eliminating a lot of the blind spots, which help to detect threats much faster that other tools, obviously miss. The benefit to this, especially if you're partnering with the Overwatch team, is that we're really able to help them and we're able to help you to stop some of these advanced threats 84% faster. So there's a dwell time as well as, a time to response that we're really able to help provide from an analyst perspective.
And I think the piece to account for there is the dwell time, Stacy. The industry average is, depending on which report you look at, is anywhere from 160 days to 207 days. And that 207 is specific because it came out of one of the reports. The bad guys are getting in the networks and living there, right? Bob talked about it this morning on his first case study. They were in there for weeks and months before anybody saw it. And so being able to see that and have the visibility to those anomalies, catching them quicker, means we reduce impact.
Agreed. And one of the big challenges that a lot of folks face is that, when hackers get into the network, one of the first things they really do is they actually disable a lot of the logging. So the challenge is if you're relying on log-based reporting from an alert perspective, and the hackers come in, they're going to disable those logs, you lose the visibility. So one
That's
of the
right.
benefits that we have, I mean, there's so much dark space, that we're really able to provide visibility on. But because we are, kind of agentless and we're kind of passive on the network, we're really able to see a lot of that traffic. Even if hackers get in and actually disable the logs, the benefit from a client as well as, with the Overwatch team is that it doesn't matter if they turn the logs off. We're still able to provide, yourselves as well as the customer and the partner, visibility into what's happening on their network.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting in Bob's presentation this morning. I really liked one of his lines, I'm going to misquote him, but where he said, "Well, we've just discovered the fact that we have a problem with the network," or he said, "We now have a problem with the network." No, you had a problem with the network 2.5 months ago. You just found out about the problem today. So
yeah, and to add some color to that, the website hadn't been classified as bad for weeks, months. Right. And then the tool that they had deployed to stop bad websites finally got updated and said, wait a minute, we're seeing bad traffic. By then, to Bob's point, and I think which helps support this idea of visibility, is too late.
Well, exactly. And the ExtraHop capability coupled with Overwatch and our 24/7 by 365 monitoring capabilities, you put those two together, it just makes a powerful statement in terms of being able to see everything on the network and cut that time and down to minutes. So sorry to interrupt you, Stacy. Go ahead.
No, it's definitely appreciated, Joe. I mean, again, the benefit from the ExtraHop side is, we have a lot of very powerful areas that we can help with. If you want to advance to the next slide, Joe, from a network and detection and response perspective, I mean, we're able, again, from a visibility perspective to provide information. So when a victim becomes a perpetrator, we're really able to see a lot of the information that flows. The benefit of partnering with Overwatch, because it can be, especially from an alert fatigue perspective, a lot of customers and partners can be overwhelmed by the number of alerts that the different products provide. So we're really able, in partnering with Overwatch, to provide detections from an alerting perspective that the Overwatch team is really able to use and drill down with from an investigation perspective, to really able to help customers understand what remediation recommendations they need to make, so that when someone starts out as a victim and then they become a perpetrator within the network, you're really able to understand where did this particular compromise happen? Where is it spread to? How do we need to remediate this? So that you're able to reduce your cleanup costs if you're hacked, because it's never a matter of if you're going to be hacked. It's a matter of when you're going to be hacked and how you can actually respond to it to reduce your costs in terms of being able to kind of clean up, remediate, and fix some of the challenges. So we're really, again, very difficult to evade because we're passive, we're agentless. We see what's going on, and we can really act as that ground truth to be able to investigate, to say, how do we need to help with this? So a lot of times we'll see, customers looking at it and saying, okay, we want to put together a SOC. Well, we don't have the resources to do it. We don't have, we don't want to have to kind of deal with putting all the parts and the components, and how do we look at this? But we need to worry about compliance. We need to worry about auditing. We've got security hygiene issues where we're just not entirely certain, kind of what information we need or how do we need to deal with this, or we've been breached and we need to provide to, from a regulatory perspective, we need to provide breach compliance reports. Well, we're really able to help provide, detailed drill down information as part of this to be able to say, hey, this is, what happened. This is how it needed to be remediated, and this is the information that this is kind of the tasks and efforts that we're taking as part of that. So a lot of customers will really look at it, and it starts with, we need to better protect our environment. We need to do incident response. We need to start proactively hunting threats within our network. We need to investigate to determine how we've been compromised or we've been compromised. And again, we need to provide that, kind of get more detailed information. So there's a lot of ways apart from visibility that we're really able to provide value to customers. And the benefit of partnering with the Highwire Overwatch team is, your teams are able to really, do this and take this either from an augmentation or an outsourcing perspective, to really help clients to redirect their resources, so that they're better able to kind of respond to some of these advanced threats.
Yeah, I think the one point I want to capture here and really drive home is the difficult to evade conversation. If you listen to our keynote this morning, one of the things that you heard is the bad guys get into the network and they start disabling tool sets. They disable logging, they disable endpoint controls. And if you're not looking for the disabling of those systems, which most people don't, they're going to turn off all the controls that you want to use to catch them. And having an agentless, passive tap on your network that is impossible to shut off gives you a leg up on potentially catching them early. Because to Stacy's point, it's not a matter of if, it's when. And when it happens, you want to make sure the best tools are watching on the wire that you can get that can't be tampered with.
So,
next slide, Joe.
Yeah, before we get to the next slide, though, we have a question that came up. So I'm a medium to large organization, and I can easily implement this myself. Why should I outsource this to Overwatch or ExtraHop or to whomever?
So I think that's a great question.
Either of the two of you.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Joe. A couple of points I'll make. One is ExtraHop is super powerful, which means it's got some complexity behind it. And getting everybody up on your team up to speed to manage that around the clock is problematic in a lot of cases. So mid-market to even smaller enterprise companies struggle with finding the talent. And I'm going to hold that answer a little bit, Joe, until farther in the deck, because we're going to talk about some of the business problems that we help solve from an outsourcing perspective. But, number one is we have security practitioners who do this for a living. This is all we do is manage security. Us helping you either co-manage or manage this independently. And by the way, it's never independent. It's always arm in arm. But us managing it for you means you can focus on some of the day-to-day, strategic, and maybe even some tactical type of events that you're working on, and let us watch. And I think that's the third one is at 2 a.m., who wants to take the call, right? We're up anyway, right? Because this is what we do. We can do that for you.
Okay. And we'll defer part of the answer to further in the deck.
Okay.
So from a full coverage perspective, ExtraHop has the benefit of working in multiple environments. We can work in the cloud, we can work in remote offices, we can work in data centers. Using our VLX 360 platform, which again provides network detection and response as part of a holistic SOC strategy. We're really able, from a cloud perspective, in integrating into the Overwatch's control and command platform, we're really able to provide managed detection as part of this optimized solution. I mean, we've spent a lot of time engaging with and bringing up and making sure that the Overwatch team understands our product inside and out, so that they're really able, and their SOC analysts understand, hey, we've got a detection that's come in from ExtraHop. This is what we're seeing, and they're able to really provide a level of recommendation, investigation, remediation as part of that. And so it really helps to provide clients with a 360 view from a visibility perspective, as well as kind of some of that situational intelligence. And we're really able to provide, in conjunction with the Overwatch team, immediate value to really kind of lower the management burden for a lot of customers. I mean, again, as David talked to, I mean, we're built off of an extensible API, kind of framework. And, and that provides customers a huge amount of value in terms of the information that we're able to provide. But the Overwatch team has really been able to work with us to technically be able to deliver a solution that provides low management burden to customers. So, there is a huge amount of value in this partnership together in terms of what we're able to provide.
Thank you, Stacy.
And again, there's a lot of different areas that clients can use us in. I mean, again, partnering with the Overwatch team to be able to provide ExtraHop from a managed perspective. I mean, again, we're really able to provide, managed incident response. We're able to help with threat hunting, all the historical investigation, and with a lot of the functionality that we continue to build out on the platform. If you've got customers who are looking at, kind of an aging, IPS infrastructure, for example, we're really able to provide, what we're calling like next gen, IPS functionality. We're really able to help as customers, move on their digital transformation journey to the cloud. We're really able to help monitor those critical cloud workloads. So, as customers are moving different applications to the cloud, as they're kind of moving from a data center to a cloud, we're really able to kind of help as part of that to help them understand, what are the workloads on, from a performance perspective, what do you see from a security perspective in terms of, people trying to access those assets. So we're really able to help not only, from a customer and a partner perspective, as well as an Overwatch perspective, to kind of eliminate those blind spots. We really detect the threats, but we're really able, as part of the work that we've done with the Overwatch team, to help both the Overwatch team as well as the customer act quickly when there's threats that are detected.
Yeah, I think the two key things here is, and it's all based on visibility, mean time to detect. How quickly can we detect something bad? And then more importantly, how quickly can we respond? And this lends itself back to that first question as well, Joe, is at 2 a.m. we're responding to the threats. If we're complementing or augmenting your team, or we're managing it for you directly, we're seeing that, we're responding to it, or in some cases we're seeing that we're getting you out of bed, right, depending on how we might build that relationship. But fundamentally, if I can reduce mean time to detect and reduce mean time to respond, the ability for the bad guy to take or to really negatively impact my organization goes down. And to me, that's critical in having good cyber hygiene, is monitoring and responding.
So David, as a follow-up question to that, let's assume that as a medium to large organization, we're moving down arm in arm, as you said. And we hit that 2 a.m., 3 a.m. on a Saturday night call. Do you have the capability to remotely mitigate, shall we say, or isolate whatever, quarantine, whatever that issue might be? And I understand this is a fairly general question, which lends itself to specific circumstances. But in general, do you have the capability to mitigate quarantine so that that call that I receive at 2 a.m. is, shall I say, not as urgent as it might have been, without your involvement?
So the short answer is yes. There is to your point, Joe, it is a longer answer when you want to talk about the details of how that works. So depending on what tools are deployed, depending on what run books we might have built with you as part of that deployment, we have transparently, we have some customers who are risk averse and don't want us to take action. They want us to get them up, and we can do that. And then we have some customers who say, we really don't have security expertise. Can y'all take action and just tell us you did it? And so it's a longer answer. I know the short answer is yes, we can. We can help.
Okay, but overall, between Overwatch and the tools, the capabilities that are available within the ExtraHop platform, that exists.
Yes, it absolutely does.
Okay, thank you.
So, David, I think this is where you
We're going to transition over to David now at this point in time.
All right. So we're going to talk through these next couple slides, and this slide in particular helps answer part of that question as well, Joe. The platform does some amazing things, right? When you actually get to see it, you'll go, "Wow, I didn't know it could do that." The important thing there is we do know it can do that because we manage this solution. And so to that end, we give you with us partnered with ExtraHop is the ability to give you the visibility, right? I'm going to come back, and if you hear nothing else today through all the sessions, is the better visibility we have, the better our ability to respond and help reduce the threats, right? That's essential. So if I can see it, I can write detections for it, and then I can build responses to take action. And I think the important thing here, Stacy talked about briefly, is it can be fully cloud, it can be fully on-prem, it can be a combination of the two, because we're all moving. We talked about this morning too. We're moving all of our stuff to the cloud. Don't forget that as an attack vector, and make sure you've got visibility there. Two is we're going to give you, because we have the team, we have the technical expertise, we're going to give you concise, actionable, and in some cases help you remediate those threats, right? Where you have analysts that look at that and go, yep, I've seen this before. Here's how we fix it. Let me walk you through fixing it. And I think this third bullet is the one I was talking about earlier. There's a shortage, and for all of you who have young people who are technically minded, there's a shortage for cybersecurity people, right? And depending on what report you see, there are anywhere from 500,000 vacant jobs in the U.S. to 1.5 to 2 million globally. So if I'm a young guy, which I'm not, which is evident, and I'm single, I go into cybersecurity and I travel the world, because I could literally go to Brazil tomorrow and get a job doing cybersecurity because they need us. There's not enough. And this staffing challenge is exacerbated by all of these mid-market and SMB companies who need it but can't find it. And if you remember your economics 101, supply and demand, if there's no supply and there's high demand, where do prices go? They go up. So helping you manage the staffing requirements for a tool like this is where we come into play. And then I think on top of that is, because we're a cybersecurity company, we can take what we learned from ExtraHop and all of the other learnings we have and give you a better landscape of security than you can without us. I firmly believe that to be the case. Joe, do you want to go to the next slide, please?
Certainly.
All right. So here we're talking about how we go from the idea of, hey, Highwire, we need some help. We've got ExtraHop, or we want to do ExtraHop. How can you help us? We go from building the partnership to the deployment process to the monitoring. We build incident response plans. We help you think about the whole ecosystem of your cybersecurity, and probably more importantly, your infrastructure in general. And then we deliver these services so that you have a comfort level that someone's watching. I have a slide, and I should have interjected it here, but I didn't. And if you look at it, you've got 4 beds on the slide, and in bed 1 is the CEO, and he's asleep, and in bed 2 is the CFO, and he or she's asleep, and then you got I forget who's in bed 3, but they're asleep as well. And bed 4 is empty, and the label over it says CISO, because the CISO doesn't get to sleep. And one of my colleagues, Phil, will tell you that his bed is empty. It's because we're always paying attention to cyber threats. They don't wait for the opening bell of the stock exchange for them to start coming after us. They're after us all the time, and that's daunting for most companies. How do I staff for that? Right. And that's where we come into play. We're watching. Our CISO's bed is empty, which, may explain the bloodshot eyes and the fact that he has no hair either. We're here to help. Right. And this is where this always on security operations center that we have, based out of Batavia is going to help. Any Stacy, any color there, or Joe?
Well, I was just going to say, it's always important to remember, once again, back to our 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning, whatever. 2 a.m. Saturday morning here is 2 p.m. Sunday,
right?
In Asia, right?
That's right.
So it's the middle of the day for them. So just as an FYI.
Yeah, and I think at least from what we're seeing is, one of the biggest customer challenges is really, again, goes back to that 24/7 monitoring component. One, making sure that you've got the right tool sets, but then 2, being able to have someone have eyes on glass all day, every day, to figure out exactly what they need to be able to do. So that, the benefit of partnering with the Overwatch team is that, customers get the power and the benefit of the ExtraHop NDR solution,
yep.
But they also get the peace of mind of being able to sleep because someone's always watching, regardless of the different service level the customer needs or wants, based on, do I augment, do I outsource? The value is I can sleep. And if it's important enough, somebody will wake me up so that I can take action if I need to. So it's an extra, extra little bit of eyes on glass. Oops.
So I think a couple of things we just want to highlight here around the service itself. We've built bundles with the ExtraHop team around management and responding to active threats in your environment, right? So we have the SOC delivered services. We've got a basic and advanced. We can talk more about that. Happy to answer questions on that if you have them. The other thing that's really intriguing for me as a network guy, as a security guy, is ExtraHop, because it sits on a passive span port. It also gives us really fascinating network analytics. And I know we didn't come here to talk about that, but understanding why your network is operating the way it is the foundation of what ExtraHop was built off of. It's phenomenal at telling you packets and applications and round trip times of packets. And there's so much there. And again, this lends itself to why would I need some help, is because it's a ton of complexity and there's a ton of information. And if you don't understand what you're seeing, you may not get the full value out of the platform, because we have the ability to see a misconfigured DNS server. And we'll say, hey, by the way, you've got this going on internally, and they'll go fix it. And although it's not a security issue, network and application performance monitoring is huge, and it's in the platform, right? You get that out of the box. Stacy, you have any other comments around that topic? I love that topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge differentiator for ExtraHop, but I mean, I think it's also a massive benefit from a customer perspective. I mean, one of the challenges a lot of customers look at is they're not always necessarily certain what all of the different devices are in their network. I mean, we're really able to provide a great topological map in terms of saying, hey, these are the actual devices and these are the actual components that you have on the network. These are the different this is when your SSL certs expire. This is what different kind of code they're running in terms of from an application layer perspective. So it helps with things like patch management, or you're looking at saying, hey, we've got these types of products, we're seeing huge performance hits. Well, we can look at that together and say, okay, well, this is actually not necessarily an issue with the fact that you need to go out and buy 10 more application servers. You actually have a security compromise here that's affecting your network performance. So it can help to either justify purchases of new equipment or expansion of equipment, to address real application performance issues,
Yep.
or it can help you identify security holes where you're seeing network performance issues or application performance issues when it's actually a security threat. So the fact
That's
that
right.
we came from this network space is a huge benefit because it really helps to collapse from a customer perspective.
Yep, I'm with you.
So then basically it's fair to say that because of the depth and extensiveness of the ExtraHop platform, not only does it lend itself to providing partners and end users a security blanket, but it also gives them the capability to tweak their networks where it needs to be tweaked. So it's kind of a side benefit, if you will.
Absolutely. Yep, I agree. I think a simple use case is bad guys get on the network, they install a DHCP server, the DHCP server starts sending out response packets and pointing the DNS back to their own malicious site. I've seen it, right? And so what that happens is every new machine that gets on, it asks for an IP address, right? It gets an IP, and in that request, it also gets the default gateway, and it also gets a DNS address for the default for DNS. And bad guys will point them to their own DNS, and now they're getting all that traffic to flow through them, and they're inspecting it, they're stealing credentials, they're doing lots of bad things. ExtraHop sees that. It'll see that all day and say, wait a minute, this is not an authorized DNS server or DHCP server, or, hey, this one just popped up, I've never seen it before. Again, it gives you that early warning kind of detection, mean time to detect, mean time to response, dwell time goes down, impact is less. It's pretty cool. All right, so a couple of things to note. ExtraHop was built to scale for very large customers. It can scale down as well, by the way, but I think the important thing is it's been deployed in some really large networks. So you don't have to worry about, is this something that we just built yesterday? It's not. It'll do full visibility of traffic. And again, visibility is essential to detection. And it does asset discovery. So to Stacy's point, it'll help build a network diagram of everything that you see. It's got some really cool investigation and forensic tools. So, for example, when you see an event, you can click on it and see all of the effects that event had on other machines and other networks, and all of the tentacles that have gone out from that event to probe other machines, right? Because everyone knows the bad guys, once they get a foothold, they go laterally, and that's what this is going to help you pick up. You've got on-prem cloud-based machine learning. It's just really good at help giving you high fidelity detections. Well, high fidelity means we're pretty confident. It's a degree of confidence of how critical this event is, or how important this anomaly is, or how much risk is associated with this anomaly. So incredibly important. Line rate decryption. I don't know much about this one yet, Stacy, but my assumption is it's going to be able to decrypt and then be able to inspect the traffic that it's decrypting.
Yeah, and that's a really important one, David, because I mean, one of the challenges that you see from an industry perspective is that most of the threats that are coming into a network right now, or are really being hidden in encrypted traffic.
That's right.
So we're really able to do this at line rates. You're not seeing any performance degradation, but we're able to decrypt that and run that information through, which allows us to do a higher level of detection. So
That's right.
It's a very important piece. That coupled with the SSL cert kind of expiration components in terms of understanding when your SSL certs are going to expire is a phenomenal benefits that customers actually receive.
Yep, agree. And then I think the other piece that we want to talk to briefly is we can turn this from a full capital investment to a operational investment. And so it makes it easier. And Stacy, you've got some more color here than I do. It makes it easier for companies to move into this space.
No, I mean, correct. I mean, I think the big piece is, at least I think part of it is operationalizing the investment, where, a lot of times we see customers that have, hey, we've got other projects that take priority, or things don't get deployed and the investment's not operationalized. So I think that's the big piece, is like, in conjunction with the Overwatch team, is, you guys actually work with us. You work with the client, you work with the partner to make sure that the customer is able to get the ExtraHop deployed within their network. They're able to start getting alerts. They're able to fine tune that, and they're really able to see value from that quickly. The other piece of it is, again, as you talked about, more from a financial perspective, is that we're able to work with your teams to deliver this in several different financial models, depending on what the customer's budget constraints are. So if you need to have a portion of it from more of a capital perspective, or it needs to be fully operationalized as a service because you've got operating budget, we're able to work with the Overwatch team and the partner to make sure that it can be delivered in a model that the customer's budget requires.
That's right.
It's interesting that both of you just brought that up, because one of the questions that we just had come in were that typically our organization, and I'm paraphrasing the question, but typically the organization was more of a capital intensive purchasing type organization. But post COVID-19, the CEO and CIO or CFO have come down and said they'd like to move more toward a cash conservation model. And as you have appropriately pointed out, there are a variety of different acquisition methods, because, and some of what I would add is, obviously, as you look at this, the depth of capabilities of the platform, typically lends itself to more cost, right?
Sure does.
So the fact that this can be delivered in an extensive model, financial model, different financial models is wonderful. So thanks for answering a question before it became a question.
There we go. And I think the last thing, just to talk about before we open up to Q&A, is we're seeing a lot of, and it'd be interesting to hear from some of our other partners on the call. In the U.S. specifically, we're seeing a lot more regulatory pressure, starting in California with the CCPA and the SHIELD Act in New York. And now we've got the executive order from Biden that says we're going to do more around frameworks, and frameworks have a monitoring component. And if you just take those three things off the table, you still have monitoring requirements from PCI and HIPAA and high trust that are impacting, credit and healthcare and banking. Stacy, tell us a little bit about ExtraHop and how it helps with that problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, we're actually up against, say, MITRE, for example. We've got the capability to kind of map against the MITRE tool set. And that's actually our framework. And that's actually done within the tool set itself. So there's a nice little panel that you can kind of go in and see. And it looks like, I call it the chiclet chart, that maps up against MITRE and shows where we are, what we need to worry about from a MITRE perspective. We're also able to map against CIS and NIST frameworks as well. So, and we work with your team. So if a customer has PCI or HIPAA or, other regulatory frameworks that they're concerned with, understanding what those frameworks are, I mean, we're able to figure out together, hey, these are the different things that we need to report on so that the customer is able to get a PCI compliance report from our platform that says, hey, these are the different components, or these are the things that we've tracked. You're monitoring for, PCI data, you're monitoring for other types of personal data. Your server that, for example, that stores that information, has had, detections against it. So, those are things that we're able to kind of, talk about. But the other area that I did want to address was the cyber insurance piece, which I think is becoming more and more important, especially given all of these different breaches, because there is a huge cost to customers, whether against one of these, as you talked about, like the state of Mass, the state of New York, California. If someone's compromised, I mean, the Attorney General's office obviously starts as part of that an investigation, and some of these states have different fines associated with it, depending on what's been done or what hasn't been done. So a lot of customers are really choosing to start to look at using cyber insurance. And there's a variety of different companies that provide this. But what we're starting to see with those cyber insurance companies is that they are requiring, in order to keep premiums down, that you have specific technology or technology that meets specific, frameworks, for example. So,
that's right.
We're really able to help provide, again, back to visibility information, for those different insurance companies that shows, hey, you're really able to see what's going on in your network. You're able to help provide detections with this, and being able to show that and working with Overwatch, those two components in combination are really help to provide, a level of comfort for a lot of cyber insurance companies that could potentially lower some of a company's cyber insurance premiums. I mean, that's always one of the things to investigate.
So 2 points there. One is cyber insurance companies don't want to lower premiums. They want to lower payouts, right? So at the end of the day, what you want to do is not force them to have payouts, because then they raise your premiums. So tools like ExtraHop are essential, because if you've been paying attention, you're going to see cyber insurance companies are denying claims because folks aren't doing their due diligence. They're not using a framework. They're not monitoring. They're not patching. There's a lot of that goes into what cyber insurance companies are now starting to demand of their insured. So that was the first point. Second point is, and I'll just plug my podcast. I don't normally do this, but next week we're doing a podcast with the Wetzel Associates, and they focus on cyber insurance. And we're going to talk about the trends and those type of things. So if you followed any of our podcasts, please stay tuned, because we've got one coming about this topic, and it should be fascinating, because we're going to explore cyber insurance, how you can reduce your claims by having frameworks and having security best practices and some of those things, and some of the trends that are happening in the industry today. We're getting close on time. Do we have any questions?
David, I just want to add two things to what you and Stacy have just said. So
go ahead, Joe.
You mentioned California and New York. I read recently there's approximately 30-something states that have legislation moving through their state bodies, mimicking either Florida, either California or New York. So it's going to become more pervasive.
And GDPR, there a lot of those same requirements we're seeing in the UK and in Europe are now finding its way into legislation here in the U.S.
Absolutely. And as with anything else, when it comes to cyber insurance, the insurance companies are becoming much more diligent on their side, doing their forensic analyses after the fact, after the breach, so as to not pay out. So it's important that you stay with the framework. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Do your due diligence.
That's right. Agree. Well, with that,
We'd like to open it up
Stacy,
to-
any
Yeah,
parting
go.
comments?
No, I mean, again, if anybody has any questions, we're happy to have calls, give you more information, show you a demo in terms of the product and the service set together. So, reach out to your Overwatch channel team, and just ask to set up some time with our teams to talk.
Stacy, we appreciate your time and your participation. We value the relationship. And Joe, thanks for moderating. For those on the call, again, feel free, if you've got questions, reach out. Adrian, this will end the broadcast, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks to everybody for joining today. Greatly appreciated. And especially thanks to Stacy and to David for being here.
Thanks so much, Joe.